Room here to review Man of Steel number 5, and more of the same from Bendis. I think from carrying on from issue 4, more decompression, more questionable dialogue, but at least a more fun issue. The art is also, I think, an improvement over Kevin Maguire. High credit to Adam Hughes and Jason Fabok, who did a fantastic job. Alex Sinclair on the also contributed to some of the art and colors, and Josh Reed on the letters, Ivan Reis, Joe Prado, and Sinclair on the cover. Great stuff overall. I guess in terms of story, it is typical Bendis. What can I say? It's you know, again, the last issue 4, was just a one long protracted fight scene that really didn't particularly I don't know, it didn't really particularly impress, and it ended with Superman, we thought, using his solar flare. Now, there seems to be a huge glitch here. This is a huge editorial error in issue 5, because it starts off with Superman, after blowing up the fortress with a solar flare and presumably incapacitating Rogol Zaar, flies Rogol Zaar to the moon, where he would bring the battle to the moon to keep it away from Earth, and that way prevent any collateral damage to people and to the Earth itself while he's battling Rogol Zaar. That doesn't make any sense for one simple reason. It's well established that when Superman uses his solar flare, he loses his powers for a period of time after he uses it, does the solar flare thing. So that's a huge continuity error. Unless there was some other explanation for why the fortress blew up last issue, but there's no explanation for why the fortress blew up last issue. So that's a significant glare in the story, a significant flaw in the story. But I guess for most people, they wouldn't know that was a flaw, because I think a lot of new readers might not know how Superman's solar flare works. But solar flare, Superman can only use the solar flare once, and then it takes him at least 24 hours and longer to recover all his superpowers. So that didn't quite make sense. Now, a lot of it was it's exposition heavy. There's it finally shows Lois. It shows I guess a previous scene again. It's flashing back to an earlier scene where Clark Kent, Lois Lane, and Jonathan are approached by his father Jor-el, and Jor-el is asking basically to take Jonathan on a universe hopping tour for his education, and it's not clear what's decided there, but that's what Jor-el wants to do, and so that at least explains to us that likely that's the reason why Jonathan and probably Lois Lane herself is probably with Jor-el elsewhere in the universe. So that's why they're not on the planet. That's probably why Lois Lane is missing from the planet, is because Lois and Jonathan went with Jor-el. And so at least we know they're safe and likely with Jor-el somewhere else in the universe. Again, not a lot of movement to the story though. This is for 6 issues. I already know we're not going to get really a complete story here. The 6 issues just going to end setting up what's going to come after. We're not actually going to get a story that ends, which is one of my fears, and this is something that with Bendis, massive problems with Bendis over in Marvel. 36 issues on X-Men, dangling subplots all over the place. 20 some odd issues with Guardians of the Galaxy, subplots dangling all over the place. Just generally that's deeply unsatisfying. And when you have 6 issues, when you're bragging that this is Man of Steel, you should have self-contained stories. They should have been vignettes. They should have had a little bit more impact in this. But again, it sounds like I'm being negative, and I am negative in that regard, because this is a strategic error on the part of DC, I think, in this. The art's very good. We see once again, there's Melanie Moore, the firefighter, who again is beautifully drawn, very sexy character with Adam Hughes art. But unfortunately, completely useless. She's sitting there and actually doing that ridiculous pins on the board like Batman does, which was laughable last issue. It's laughable now, and nothing happens, no movement. We discover nothing new about the arsonist, other than that it just shows her talking to her fireman, and there's a fire and they all leave. And she has a brief talk with Supergirl, and she tells Supergirl she doesn't know where Superman is. And then the Justice League shows up. and during a conversation with Wonder Woman, Supergirl discovers Superman's on the moon, where he's been beat up by Rogol-Zar. Superwoman obtains Rogol-Zar, and while Superman is healing, there is just, again, the pointless exposition and dialogue with Superman waking up and realizing that, surprise, surprise, Rogol-Zar wants to destroy the Earth, which he couldn't figure that out earlier on. That was fairly obvious, but apparently it took Batman to sort of trigger that that common sense thought to kick into Superman. So again, exposition heavy, dialogue heavy. It's all right. It's all right. It's just not blowing me away. That's all. Superman flies off, and it ends with Superman essentially being flying to the center of the Earth, confronting Rogol-Zar, who appears to have some sort of mechanism set up at the center of the Earth, presumably to cleanse the Earth, because Kryptonians have infected, like a virus, they've infected the Earth, and so Rogol-Zar presumably wants to destroy the Earth. That's likely where we're headed to in the 6th issue, I think. Another complaint about the cover. I actually think that the art wasn't as good as it could be. Also, this scene never happens in the comic. Just like the cover of last issue 4 with Superman and Lois kissing, that never happened in the comic. So these are the things that I think they're little nitpicks. They're pet peeves of mine. Fans deserve to have the respect of at least having what's on the cover to be in the comic book. I mean, that was one of the things that I thought DC was getting better at, and one of the things that was good about Rebirth was that more and more the covers began to reflect what was actually in the story. And here we are, we're moving backwards. And I always have mixed feelings about Bendis, but this is okay. This is okay. I'd give this a 6 out of 10 again. And hopefully we'll have a great resolution moving forward. But guys, tell me what you think about Man of Steel number 5. I'm not as high on it as some people are, but tell me what you think your favorite moments are. Hit the subscribe button, and until next time, Comic Boom out.